Well, good morning, everybody. This is Pastor Jay, and I'm coming to you from Cornerstone Church. And we are here today to do our Friday Digging Deeper devotional. And all this week, we're digging deeper into Acts chapter 18, verses 1 through 17. And we are talking about Paul in Corinth. And this part of the series is entitled Living as a Christian in Corinth. The things we've established so far are that Paul went to Corinth at a time when the city was a city of great sin. It was a city of ill repute. It was a culture of deeply affected immoral values. And it was also a time in the empire when things were beginning to fall apart and things were very unstable for Christians. And so Paul is coming to Corinth at such a season, and he proceeds to pick up in Corinth just as he did in Thessalonica, just as he did in Berea, just as he did in Athens. And he is beginning to preach the gospel, and he goes first to the Jews. And at first, he begins to have some great success. And then, just like in Thessalonica, some problems arose. And in verse 6 of chapter 18, we see the Bible tells us this. When they opposed Paul and became abusive, he shook out his clothes in protest and said to them, "Your blood be on your own heads. I am innocent of it. From now on, I will go to the Gentiles." Then Paul left the synagogue and went next door to the house of Titius Justus, a worshiper of God. Crispus, the synagogue leader, and his entire household believed in the Lord, and many of the Corinthians who heard Paul believed and were baptized. And so Paul has been practicing business as usual. He's following the path of least resistance, like we talked yesterday. He's operating in his gifts, which are teaching and knowledge, because he's very knowledgeable in the scriptures, having gone through the school of Gamaliel, one of the most prestigious theological and legal schools of his time and his place. And he is just using his intellect to sort of win over the Jews. He's having some success, and just like in other places, he's having some persecution. And so Paul steps into that next thing. He takes his next step. And he's following a principle that Jesus taught in Matthew chapter 10. So in Matthew chapter 10, Jesus sends his 12 disciples out, and he says, and this is what the Bible tells us happened. Jesus called his 12 disciples to him, and he gave them authority to drive out impure spirits and to heal every disease and sickness. These are the names of the 12 apostles. First, Simon, who is called Peter, and his brother Andrew, James, son of Zebedee, and his brother John, Philip and Bartholomew, Thomas and Matthew the tax collector, James, son of Alphaeus and Thaddeus, Simon the zealot, and Judas Iscariot, who betrayed him. These 12 Jesus sent out with the following instructions: "Do not go among the Gentiles or enter any town of the Samaritans." Now that part has changed, obviously. The time has come to go to the Gentiles. "Rather go to the lost sheep of Israel." But this is the principle that Paul practiced. When he went into a city, he first would go to the lost sheep of Israel. "As you proclaim this message, the kingdom of heaven has come near. Heal the sick, raise the dead, cleanse those who have leprosy, drive out demons. Freely you have received, freely give." And this is a principle that Paul also practiced, we know, because prayer for the sick was a normal part of his ministry. "Do not get any gold or silver or copper to take with you in your belts, no bag for the journey or extra shirt or sandals or a staff, for the worker is worth his keep. Whatever town or village you enter, search there for some worthy person and stay at their houses until you leave. As you enter the home, give it your greeting. If the home is deserving, let your peace rest on it. If it is not, let your peace return to you. If anyone will not welcome you or listen to your words, leave that home or town and shake the dust off your feet. Truly I tell you, it will be more bearable for Sodom and Gomorrah on the day of judgment than for that town." So Paul has begun, just as the first disciples did, to go into the synagogue and proclaim the gospel message. Initially, it's received well by many people, and then there's an uprising against the gospel. And so Paul practices this principle in Matthew chapter 10, where he gets up, shakes out his robe, shakes the dust off his feet, and he leaves the synagogue, saying, I'm not coming back. I'm not going to preach anymore. I'm done. And he goes next door to preach to the people who are still receiving. So this is a next step for Paul. And we're going to find out how this next step works, because in Matthew chapter 10, Jesus would just seem to indicate, leave that town or that household. And so Paul is leaving the household, but he's not going to leave the town. Instead, he's going to seek the Lord for an answer. How do we live as Christians in Corinth? We bring the message, business as usual. We use our talents and our gifts to create an opening and a bridge across which the gospel message can flow. And then if we get pushback, we don't get upset. We just move on. We move on. Just as Jesus said, you shake the dust off and you go to the next place. And so Paul is going on to the next step. Until we meet again tomorrow, God bless you and be at peace.